Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Dare County Board of Commissioners September the 20th meeting. At this time, I'd like to call on the Reverend Wayne Berry for an invocation. Reverend Berry, thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you. It's a privilege. Let us pray. Gracious and merciful God, source of all mercy, you are God of all time, all people, all places, and all seasons. As we move from summer to autumn in 2 days, help us to move seamlessly from our busy beach season to a more contemplative fall and winter. Thank you for all that you are and all that you gift us with. To know you is to be gifted. You know our dependence on you. Please continue to reveal to us our interdependence on each other. Give us strength to be your blessing and mercy in the world. God, thank you for being with us citizens of Dare County through these very trying times. Be with us and our commissioners as we carry out the many and essential responsibilities of citizenship, governance, and democracy. Recommending and approving changes to community blueprints and policies. Amending budgets and approving grant applications. Overseeing the care and nourishment of our beaches. Making board appointments and overseeing county government. And thank you for inspiring citizens to serve on our county boards. Loving God, be with our commissioners in deep and special ways. Make them instruments of your love and peace. Where there is hatred, help them to bring love. Where there is offense, help them to bring pardon. Where there is discord, let them bring union. Where there is error, assist them in bringing truth. Where there is doubt, inspire them to bring clarity. Where there is despair, support them in bringing hope. Inspire them to console others before consoling themselves. Help them seek to understand others before seeking to have themselves understood. Finally, give them wisdom to give love before receiving love. For we have been told that it is in giving that one receives. It is in forgetting self that one finds oneself. And that it is in pardoning that one experiences pardon. Merciful and loving God, give us courage to believe that it is in dying that we receive new life. We ask these favors and receive your blessings in the name that only you know, in the precious and unspeakable word that you are. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Berry. May we stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioner Tobin is not with us this evening. He's under the weather, so if you will keep him in your thoughts and prayers, it would be greatly appreciated. County Manager.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Item 1 on the agenda is the chairman's opening remarks.
Thank you, County Manager. Got a few items to go over this morning. Saturday, September the 18th, at Dowdy Park, the 32nd Annual Outrageous Kids Art Festival was held. Obviously, we've missed out on that for the last couple of years due to COVID. But if you've never been to that, it's quite impressive to see the talent of our young children in Dare County. So I understand it was a tremendous turnout, huge success, as reported by Executive Director Jessica Sands. So in the future, hopefully, if you've never been to one of those, it's quite an event. In spite of COVID, it looks like 2021, by the end of the year, we will certainly have probably the highest revenue turnout in the history of Dare County. Lee Nettles reported recently that the tourism dollars continue to flow in record numbers in Dare County. The July occupancy and meal revenue numbers represented, in his words, historic heights. When it comes to occupancy collections, the July 2021 figure was almost $160 million, exceeding what had been the July prior 2020 record, and that was record-breaking numbers in 2020 of $152 million. The year overall, 21 numbers are up 54% from 2021. That's just incredible, especially what our retailers, our hotelers, our restaurant folks, property management firms are dealing with COVID. Those numbers are just incredible. And certainly, in spite of all the problems that restaurant owners had in finding and retaining staff, the July 21 meals collections were up significant over the same month last year by about 49% jump to almost 56 million versus 37 million in 2020. And year-to-date, meals numbers were up 75% from 2020. And just totally incredible numbers. 75%. Incredible. Yeah, just unbelievable. And and we've still got October, November, December, so 2021 numbers will just be off the charts. Next item is Cape Hatteras National Seashore wants your help. They're preparing a plan for a project to repair the Cape Hatteras lighthouse and the surrounding landscaping, and they're asking for the public's help. They want you to help them identify issues, concerns, and opportunities to be considered as part of an environmental assessment. And the public comment period is a 30-day period. It started September the 17th, and it's going to run through October the 17th of this year. The lighthouse repairs project is necessary because they're deteriorating interior and exterior elements of the lighthouse that really are in dire need of repair. They're going to hold several opportunities for the public to weigh in. One is going to be a meeting in person that will take place on September the 28th from 6 to 7 p.m., and that'll take place in the auditorium at the Cape Hatteras Secondary School on NC-12. Now, keep in mind, they are going to limit it to first come, first serve, 50 persons. You must RSVP to secure a seat at the table, and you can do that if you go to CAHA_public_affairs at nps.gov. And when you sign in, you've got to provide your first name, last name, and how many guests will be coming with you. And certainly masks are required. and seating will be social distancing. So you can do that in person on September the 28th from 6 to 7 at the Cape Hatteras Secondary School. The other opportunity you'll have will be virtually on September the 29th from 6 to 7 p.m. And there's a webinar link that you can go to, or you can dial in. The dial-in number is 301-715-8592. And then there's a user code of 850-3201-0917. And, you can submit your comments electronically. Go to park planning at nps.gov/CAHA_lighthouse so you can log in, or you can actually send in your comments in writing to attention Cape Hatteras National Seesaw, attention Superintendent at 1401 National Park Drive, Manio, NC 27954. And the deadline to submit those comments is October the 17th. So please feel free to take advantage of either that in-person meeting or that virtual meeting. Seems like we can't ever get past a meeting without talking about COVID, but Dare County Department of Health and Human Services reported a woman over 65 years of age succumbed to COVID-19 on September 15. She became the 18th person to die from the virus since the pandemic first hit back in March of 2020. So keep your thoughts and prayers for that woman. This is a first COVID fatality since late August, when another woman and man, both over the age of 65, succumbed to COVID. So this was reported on September 16th. DSHS also reported cases numbers are down, Commissioner Ross, 23 cases of COVID, along with some that was some better news. And 20 residents of Dare had been categorized as having active cases and now considered recovered, bringing the number of active cases amongst residents at 163. There are 3 county residents who had been hospitalized with COVID. Thank the Lord they've been released, and that is leaving 14 residents currently hospitalized here in Dare County. So we're hoping to see certainly those numbers decrease, because quite honestly, over 25,000 have been vaccinated, and it's just astounding to see that the number of cases are up, being up, and right, and 4,000, as Commissioner Ross said, in recovery. And then last but not least, this was a sad day this past Saturday, September the 18th, when Miss Linda Midget passed away. Linda was a very young child. Her and her mother moved to Danville, Virginia, where she graduated from George Washington High School in the class of 1961. She came to the Outer Banks that summer and went to work for the welfare department at age 17. She was employed from 1961 to 63 there, and she transferred to the Board of Education, where she served as secretary to the superintendent of public instruction. She stopped work just for a short period of time, for about 1.5 years to raise her daughter. And then she came back in 1970 as deputy tax collector, and she retired, and this is really hard to believe, Bobby, county manager, in 2000, some 21 years ago. That's hard to believe. She's been retired that long, serving as the county tax collector and director of elections for over 30 years. She was very active in town of Manio, serving as chairman of the Special Events Committee for the July 4th celebration, lighting of the Christmas tree. She chaired the Dare County Christmas Parade, as well as coordinating Dare Days for a number of years. She had served as chairman of the Dare County Arts Council, Sea and Sound Arts Council. She was president of the Manio Women's Club, as well as chairman of several state organizations. She received the key to the town of Manio on March the 7th, this past year, 2001, and was also honored by being named honorary citizen from Manio. After she retired, she worked at Roanoke Island Festival Park in the museum. She loved to meet people from all over the country. She was very active at Mount Olive United Methodist Church. She served as chairman and vice chairman of the board of directors for the Mount Olive UMC, preschool, after-school summer camp programs for over 22 years. On October the 8th, 2009, she was honored by the Outer Banks Chamber of Commerce as Outstanding Citizen of the Outer Banks. A funeral service will be held this Thursday at 11 a.m. at Mount Olive United Methodist Church. Always had a special relationship with Linda. She was very supportive, very complimentary of our board, and rest in peace, Linda. Really a sad day for Dare County. That's all I have, County Manager.
Chairman, that brings us to item 2 on the agenda. This is public comment. Ladies and gentlemen, now's the time that's been set aside for public comment. If you have public comment this evening and you've not signed up, raise your hand. I'll recognize you. When I do, please come to the podium. State your name and where you're from. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes. The green light will come on when your time begins. The yellow light will come on when you have about a minute left. And when the red light comes on, you have to conclude your remarks. If you're here to speak to the C3 text amendment, or you're here to speak to the NCDOT Combined Capital Program grant application, those are 2 public hearings that follow this. Please save your comments until those particular public comment times. Otherwise, is there anyone here for public comment tonight? I have Gail Sodesso, I think.
Wrong place.
Wrong place, all right. So I don't have anyone signed up. Is there anyone else here who'd like to speak tonight? Seeing no one here, is there anyone in Buxton that would like to speak tonight?
No comment from Buxton.
With that, Mr. Chairman, we would close the public comment and we would move to item 3 on the agenda. And this is a public hearing with regard to the C3 text amendment to add package distribution and delivery services. Donna Creef, our planning director, presented that to you all at the last meeting, told you what it was about. There's that information still in your packet, and right now we'll conduct the public hearing. When we complete the public hearing, if you have questions or need more information, Donna's here. Otherwise, you'd be free to act at the end of the public hearing. So is there anyone here, there's no one signed up to speak to the C3 text amendment to add package and distribution delivery services? Anyone here tonight to speak to that issue? Seeing nothing, no one here, is there anyone in Buxton that would like to speak to that issue?
No comment from Buxton.
With that, Mr. Chairman, we would close the public hearing, and if you all have questions or need information, Donna's here. Otherwise, you can proceed to approve or disapprove.
Okay, what is the privilege of the board this evening concerning this item?
Motion to approve the text amendment to add package distribution and delivery services.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Ross. This motion's on the floor by Commissioner Ross, has been seconded by Commissioner Bateman. And the floor is open for further discussion.
I got a question of,
Yes, sir, Commissioner.
I guess Donna or Bobby. So I thought I understood, and I probably should have asked the question last week, or when we had the meeting, when you did your presentation, Donna, but say, for instance, the Mail and Milk Company, which is right down the street from that, are they subject to the same criteria?
They would be I think that we could consider them one of the uses under the C3. The C3 is a pretty broad
Right.
commercial district, and so I think if they wanted to expand, that they would be more suited to the C3. I don't think there's anything in either district that says a milk distribution company, but in my mind, they're more C3 than industrial, so there's going to be some use in C3, retail and wholesale.
If you
So, yes,
But
yes.
if you approve this, every similar business in the C3 zone
Would be
the same
covered.
rules would be applicable to them.
Yeah.
This isn't just for this
Right.
particular business. They've requested it,
And
but
that's what I was.
everybody else in C3
Right.
would be able to use this as well.
Right, okay.
And I
Just
think-
clarity.
I think it's where you're going with that.
Yeah, exactly where I was
And if
going.
Mayo was in the C3, if they're in that district, then whatever the rules are, once you change them, are the rules for everybody in that district.
Right.
Okay, anyone else? Then there's a motion on the floor to approve the amendment as recommended by the planning board. And those in favor of the motion then signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Jim, that brings us to item 4. This is a public hearing with regard to the fiscal year 2023 NCDOT 5310 and 5311 and combined capital program grant applications. Our Director of Transportation, Radcliffe Hester, is here. He's going to tell you a little bit about this, and then we'll conduct the public hearing.
Good evening, Radcliffe. How you doing this evening?
Good afternoon. Good noon. How are you, Chairman Woodard?
Thank you for being here.
I'm glad to be here, and I do want to tell you, Chairman Woodard, that I'm envious of you. My office is on the back side of this building, and I see how clean your truck is every time you come in here. And that has inspired me to clean up my vehicle after all these months. But my name is Radcliffe Hester. I'm the new Dare County Transportation Supervisor. And I'm glad to be here. Bobby's been very helpful. Cheryl, Sharon Flatt, who was my predecessor, she's been very helpful. So it's a lot to learn. And this is typical. This is normal for you all, but this is our annual grant funding meeting we have for the 5310 operational, 5311 administrative, and then the combined capital grant. And so, I mean, I've submitted all the paperwork, so if you guys have any questions, I mean, that's basically what I'm up here for.
All right, anyone?
I'm trying to figure out why we would even hesitate.
Yeah, amen.
I don't know why we would hesitate to even say, of course, Radcliffe, proceed. Is there something we should know? County manager?
Yeah, you should know that if you don't approve it, then our activities will be drastically curtailed because this is one of our primary sources of funding.
Oh, yeah, that's what I thought.
I can tell you
guess-
this, it's incredible, what you guys do. I mean, I hear compliments all the time from this, and this is simply a great service that we provide our community, and it would certainly cause a lot of heartburn for a lot of folks throughout Dare County if we didn't have this. So I commend you and your folks for what you do. And they're dedicated people too, boy. I see them on the road all the time.
It's a tough job, but we do it because we love our town.
Absolutely.
With that, I'll just add one thing before we go to the public hearing. Radcliffe dived into this job head first. Nobody knows how to do this job. There's not like a talent pool out there that you go hire somebody to run your transportation. It's a learn on your go, and we haven't missed a beat. So appreciate all your hard work.
Thank you.
Yeah. With that, we'll conduct the public hearing. The same rules that we applied earlier will apply now. Is there anyone here? There's no one signed up. Is there anyone here who'd like to speak to this issue? Seeing no one here, is there anyone in Buxton that would like to speak to this issue?
No comment from Buxton.
With that, Mr. Chairman, we close the public hearing and ask you to approve.
Okay, pleasure of the board.
Move to approve.
There's a motion on the floor by Commissioner House and the Vice Chairman to approve as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Ross. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you again, Radcliffe.
Chairman, that brings us to item 5 on the agenda. Gail Sinesso is here to present and make a presentation to you for a proclamation for Alzheimer's awareness. Gail, floor is yours.
Ms. Gale, good to see you once again. As always, you're out there working hard.
Thank you, sir. It's so good to be here, and thank you for being a part of recognizing World Alzheimer's Month. We have, and just talking about Linda Hester, she booked Angelo into the Dare Days on a Saturday in June. It was like 40 degrees. And Angelo was the warm-up act for the Kingston Trio. So God bless. They drank all his coffee while he was performing. This is my friend and fellow board member, Kathy Fendler. Kathy is a retired emergency department nurse from the Outer Banks Hospital. And I'd also like to recognize my volunteers. First of all, my assistant, Anna Figel, just wave, and Bev Stimmel, and Nancy Maturo. And Jem is always team building, so just wanted to recognize these folks. Anyway, September 2021 is World Alzheimer's Month, and we'd like to recognize the community of Dare County for helping seniors with dementia care. And I mean, it's a story every day. I went into Harris Teeter, and they said, oh, we know Mr. So-and-so. When he comes in, we make sure someone walks with him and helps him get through the store and helps him with the groceries. So this is a caring community, but we need to do more. Next slide. And as you know, our senior services are stretched to the limit. I don't know what the wait list is now for social services, but it's been as high as 160. Now is a good time to plan for the surge in seniors. Next one. Go on to the next one. This is the percent of change in our aging population. And right now in 2016, there are over 7,000 people over 65. And there are already 641 over the age of 85. Then if you look to 2036, those numbers increase. Thank you. The prevalence of dementia is based on a formula of 5 to 8% of the population. So in 2016, we had 393 to 629 people in Dare County living with dementia. And when you're living with dementia, it's not short. This disease requires care and support for 8 to 20 years. So these families are struggling. In 2036, which may seem a while back, but it's going to be here faster than we think, the percentage of people with dementia living in Dare County will go from 652 to over 1,000. Next slide. So what can we do? Right now we do have some supports, and they're good. We have Spring Arbor, which is an assisted living. We have Peak, which is a skilled nursing facility. We have GEM, and GEM's been operating virtually due to COVID. We had 2 live in-person events when it got quiet, when the challenge went away for a while, but now we're back, and we meet every Friday via Zoom. And the participation is amazing for this difficult population, and they're able to participate. The health department, the social services, private home care agencies, they can't take on any new clients. They're lacking staff, and they're overbooked. The Outer Banks Dementia Friendly Coalition is an outgrowth of the Dementia Task Force, and Kathy and I and Angelo are working collaboratively with them to hopefully raise some funds and get some programs going. So as I said, Spring Arbor is residential. People live there 24/7, and Peak is the same thing. So the community, but I think you went backwards. Okay. Okay, one more. Community-based services have been proven to extend the time seniors are cared for at home by at least a year. If you can give them a break, everyone benefits. Next slide. So what I'm suggesting is that we expand the services available and provide support earlier. One way of supporting seniors with dementia is a memory cafe. We call ours Harmony Cafe. It's a free program that meets, before COVID, we were meeting 3 times a month for 3 hours with exercise, children, pets, music, and lunch. And it was a free program. The caregiver comes with the person with dementia, and the caregiver goes and visits with another caregiver, and either GEM or GEM volunteers will sit with a person with memory loss, and everyone wins. Thank you. Group respite. Group respite is a formal program where the caregiver drops off their loved one and the program takes care of their loved one. And group respite in North Carolina can meet 6 hours a day, 4 days a week. And the average cost for group respite is about $60 a day. Okay. And of course, my dream is to have a licensed adult day program in Dare County. And a licensed adult daycare program can provide care 7 days a week, 10, 12 hours a day, so it can meet the schedule of families. If you work all day, then you know mom can go to GEM or to the adult day program. If you work at night, you can get a rest during the day because they're at the day program. So, thank you. Seniors, the costs. Do you know what costs are? Seniors living in an assisted living are charged $3,500 to over $10,000 a month. A month. If you're going by the year, it's $42,000 a month to $126,000 per year. That's a lot of money to care for someone. Next slide. Okay. Skilled nursing facilities. 40% of Americans think that nursing home care is free. I'd like to disabuse you of that information. If you are at the poverty level and you qualify, you can get Medicaid. That's the only way it works, and you have to be near the poverty level, and it includes both you and your spouse. In-home care. The average cost of in-home care is $3,813 a week, and that's for a 44-hour week, or $45,756 a year. The average cost for group respite is $120 to $300 for a 24-hour week. The average cost for adult daycare is $375 to $500 for a 40-hour week. Next one. The access to services and supports. I need a drink. Is anyone?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. My mouth is so dry I can't talk.
Okay.
Oh, Bobby, you're an angel. Thank you. Just flashed right back to speech class in high school when I couldn't talk because my mouth was dry. Anyway, family health. Decreased hospital visits for both care partner and care recipient. According to Kathy, she worked at the hospital and worked with these families, and it's devastating. Our Outer Banks Hospital is dementia-friendly. So when Kathy was there with a client that had dementia, she could refer them to a mentor who would sit with the patient and keep them supported. Delayed placement into long-term care and improved quality of life. Community savings, decreased need for law enforcement. That's huge, because people get called to try and find folks, or they get called because there's an altercation going on. Lowers the need for hospital stays. It's been proven that people living with dementia utilize the hospital a lot more often than people that do not have dementia, and keeps families together. We can use, right now in Dare County, we have some amazing sites. We have the Pheasant Center, we have the Dare County Center, and we have the Baum Center. This could be a beginning. We could have, they have congregate meals at the Dare Center. They could also have them at the Baum Center and down. What do they do in Hatteras, Mr. Couch?
Hatteras Island Meals, probably, I don't know, don't hold me to this, but I think they make a contribution. We've got a very good program down. They would be the natural reach out.
Thank you.
Yep.
Memory cafes. We can We can do them, we've actually been doing them at the Baum Center and at the Dare County Center, and it's worked out really well. Group respite programs, we've been very lucky with the faith community coming in and providing space. So we already have these existing spaces to begin these programs. Thank you. How do we get to a senior supported community from here? Identify partners. Identify a location, and for the location, I'm talking specifically the day program. Consider transportation issues. That's why I'm glad Radcliffe was here. I'm sorry he's gone. Long-term sustainability. How do we provide that long-term sustainability? One thing I'd like you to know, these programs can be self-sufficient. You can make enough money in the program to run the program without having to rely on grant funding. Families will pay for this service. So suggested partners, I'm looking right at you. Dare County Board of Commissioners, Dare County Health Department, Dare County Social Services, the College of the Albemarle. They have a certified nurse aide program there, and they're also receiving dementia-specific training through GEM, the Dare County Center, the Baum Center, the Outer Banks Hospital with their dementia-friendly program. They're also hosting several events to highlight the need for dementia care. The faith community, the Outer Banks Dementia Friendly Coalition, and of course GEM. So we could use an existing building, build a new space, just for the day program. Transportation. When GEM was operating as an licensed adult day program, Dare County Transportation provided transportation to the program and home at no cost for the participant. This really helps the family caregiver. Okay. And partnerships would be the Albemarle Commission. I think Mr. Ross works with them, and they have.
I do.
And the North Carolina Division of Aging, North Carolina Respite Coalition, and the Dare County government and the faith community. Excellent. So thank you very much for your time. I think Mr. Outen would be kind enough to read the proclamation that we entered.
I will. This is a proclamation for World Alzheimer's Month. Whereas September 2021 will mark the 10th World Alzheimer's Month, an international campaign to raise awareness of dementia and challenge stigma. This year's campaign promotes the important message that together we can ensure no one faces dementia alone, which highlights the need for all of us to reach out to people with dementia in our community to let them know they are supported. And whereas GEM Day Services strives to raise awareness in our community about Alzheimer's and related dementias, along with the need for progressive programs of care for the individual, educational programs for our community, and care partner support, we can all raise awareness and promote Dare County as a dementia-inclusive community. And whereas dementia became a $1 trillion disease in 2018, informal dementia caregiving is equivalent to 40 million full-time workers. A disproportionate number of women are informal caregivers. Most people with dementia do not receive a diagnosis or support. In North Carolina, over 160,000 people are living with Alzheimer's disease, a number projected to increase to more than 210,000 by 2025. And whereas while there is no cure for Alzheimer's and related dementia, there is a treatment in the form of person-centered care that will promote a healthier lifestyle for people with the disease. And whereas Dare County joins individuals living with the effects of Alzheimer's and related dementias, their families, community friends, and caregivers in promoting care for those living with the disease by supporting educational programs and direct support service for our Dare County families. And whereas Dare County joins Alzheimer's Disease International, honoring those living with Alzheimer's disease, those who have passed, and caregivers, both family and professional, at GEM's 14th annual candle lighting, November 3rd, 2021, and throughout the year. Now, therefore, the Dare County Board of Commissioners hereby proclaims September 2021 as World Alzheimer's Disease Awareness Month in Dare County and commends its observance to all citizens this the 20th day of September 2021.
Mr. Chairman, I've mentioned this several times in our meetings across the board. Both of my parents perished from this terrible disease. It would be my honor to motion to approve this proclamation.
Thank you, Commissioner House. The motion's on the floor, Commissioner House, to approve the proclamation as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by the Vice Chairman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, then those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimous. Gail, thank you for your continued efforts on behalf of Jim. All the work that you guys do is most appreciated.
Thank you, and thank you for your support, enabling us to continue. So we really appreciate all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
My husband is such an integral part of Jim, and I didn't introduce him.
Yes.
No, you
So,
didn't. I noticed
want to
that.
just remedy that. This is my husband, Angelo, and he is the wind beneath my wings. He's the one that keeps me going, so thank you.
Well, I can tell you this, if nobody in Dare County doesn't know of Angelo, then something's wrong.
Exactly right.
That's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Chairman, that brings us to item 6 on the agenda. These are various documents with regard to the 2022 Town Beach Nourishment projects, and Dave Clausen will make those presentations.
Good evening, Dave.
Thank you. Good evening. All right. I did just a quick PowerPoint just for reference this afternoon to kind of, as much as anything, get myself back to where we stand right now with everything and why we're doing what. So what we're asking you to do tonight are 4 things, which are authorize the chairman to sign a letter of an intent to Weeks Marine, and that letter of intent is conditional upon mainly receipt of all permits and local government commission approval. Adopt a budget for the beach nourishment project, which is the capital project ordinance. Adopt the approving resolution for the debt, and that's the final resolution needed in the process to issue the county debt for the project. And then at the request of bond counsel, I'm looking at Bobby because I didn't talk to him about this, but it was Rebecca Blackman Joyner. There can be changes, which I'll explain later, to the interlocal agreement. So she asked that we make it specific, you make it specific that you're approving the interlocal agreement as to form, because there will be a few changes later.
Sure.
So, as you know, we opened bids on September the 2nd. They were 25.1% less than Coastal Protection and Engineering's estimates. If you go back to the 2017 project and throw all the cost in and divide it by the cubic yards, it was $9.60. If you do the bid, it was, for this time, it's $11.32, which is less than, it's just right around 3.5% a year for 5 years would be that growth rate. So we did really well on the bids, obviously, and at those big quantities, we're $6.5 million better than what the beach nourishment model shows. That bid amount is right at $32 million. There's some things I wanted to mention that's in that project schedule. There's one line that says coastal protection and engineering permitting and design. Those are contracts that Ken Wilson had with each town, but each town is reimbursing themselves out of their debt proceeds for those costs that the towns have already paid. So since it's part of the debt that the towns are going to issue, it has to be in the project schedule because the town's debt are part of the sources for that cost. It's just like we do with architects. When we start on a project, we do a
Refresh me.
We start on a project and we hire an architect. We
Right.
do a reimbursement resolution knowing that it's going to take
Right.
a year or so
Right.
before we can get to the actual project and have a source of funds. So when we issue the debt, we've already paid for those architectural costs and we include that in the debt amount.
But again, that's cash flow. It's still a part of the.
Exactly.
And it's not our cost, it's the town cost. So we're disclosing it, but it's
But
not
it
But
coming
is-
if
out
the
of our
project
pocket.
is not 32 million, it's 34,588,000.
I'm getting there.
He'll get there.
I'm getting there. If you might notice or know from the 2017 schedule, turtle trawling was a cost in that one. It's not required this time. But there is benthic monitoring, which is monitoring the animals in the sound. That was required this time, and it was not the last time. So the sources and uses that you have in your packet are a total of $32,400,000 because it includes $400,000 for town debt cost of issuance. So it's more than the project amount because that $400,000 just stays with and belongs to the towns. The sources in total, $5.7 million from the state of North Carolina grants, about $6.1 million, which is 75% FEMA and 25% state. The county contribution will be $8,713,925. That's the amount of the county debt issuance, and that stays constant no matter what towns decide to do that I'm going to talk about in a second. And at the bid prices, the town's contributions will be $11.9 million. So with the lower bid amounts, Mr. Wilson went back and talked to each of the towns and said, you had planned, the bid documents had a certain number of cubic yards for each town in the bid document, and you have savings for that. Do you want to consider doing more sand and essentially having the town spend the same amount of money? So that is a possibility for duck and kitty hawk. It would increase the town shares. It doesn't change the county share, the $8.7 million. One thing we will have to do if they decide to go back, if they decide to increase it, is we'll have to go back and change the allocation of the mobilization cost because the mobilization is just a lump sum, and that gets allocated based on each town's cubic yardage. So everything in your bid, in your agenda packet was at the bid and the bid quantities. But when I emailed you last week in the handout in front of you, that's what we're calling the LGC packet because LGC approvals are not to exceed amounts. So if it's possible that the towns are going to increase the size of their projects, we had to go ahead and ask for that increased project. So doing that takes the total, assuming that duck and kitty hawk increase their volumes, the total goes to $34,588,000, and with their cost of issuance to $34,988,000. And in that packet, we also included a reconciliation that we did and sent to the local government commission staff this morning that reconciles between each town and in total the project budget, the sources and uses, and then each town's local government commission application and agenda item. So with this, if they make these changes, I also wanted to mention that the Kitty Hawk debt service subsidy would have to go back to what was in the model originally because their borrowing would go back to what was in the model. So the savings to the County Beach Nourishment Fund would go from $6.5 million to $5.6 million. So it'd be $900,000 less. And the debt, what I call the debt service subsidy, is County Beach Fund support for their debt payments over 5 years after the town has put in what our agreements had said they had to put in at the level that we've required of each entity. So, for example, Duck and Kiowa Hills, if they tax their municipal service districts at that level, they can cover all their debt service and maintain their 1.0 coverage ratio. Southern Shores and Kitty Hawk could not because of the size of their projects. And that's the same structure that we did 5 years ago. This handout for the local government commission also included a revised interlocal agreement where the amounts in that interlocal match, assuming that Kitty Hawk and Duck increase their volumes. And then I included the improving resolution because this morning bond council took out 3 words in section 2. So it's 3 words different. Then we are facing some issues with, will each town increase their cubic yardage? We got an email this afternoon. Kitty Hawk is going to increase their cubic yardage. Duck has not decided yet, or at least officially decided yet. And then the permits and the timing of the permits. So our letter of intent is subject to, we have to have the CAMA permits, we have to have the Corps engineer permits, we have to have the BOEM lease, and we have to have the county and all the towns have to have the local government commission approval for their debt issuances. That's outside of the local government commission's box. I'll tell you up front, we've already had 2 or 3 calls today about that issue. What really happened was the CAMA permits for Kitty Hawk and Southern Shores got behind the other 2 towns. And I apologize for the phone ringing before, but that was Ken Wilson. He got the Southern Shores CAMA permit just a little while ago. So now it's just Kitty Hawk. So we can't get the Corps permit until we have all the CAMA permits. And as you know, they don't work on a fixed timeline deadline, so we'll get them when we get them. He doesn't think it's going to be an issue, but if it becomes an issue, and for example, if we go past October 31st, we're going to have to talk to Weeks Marine about holding their bid prices. If we go past October 16th, we've already had calls with Regions Bank. They are not going to hold the interest rate.
No, they're not. It's going to go up, David. I promise you it will.
The good news on that side is rates haven't moved,
They will.
but I would expect that rate to go up some if we go past there. And we're going to address that starting tomorrow with them. Our initial thing was, well, State Treasurer let us go to your November meeting instead of October. Well, we've got another rule in that if you go to the November meeting, they require you to have your audit reports done. And that not only means, it doesn't mean October 31st to have them done, it really means October 15th because they have to be reviewed by the fiscal management side of the State Treasurer's office. And I'll just tell you, it's impossible. We can't do it. So we've got a call.
What can we do? What can we not do?
They want the complete audit.
They?
The State Treasurer's office wants the complete
Audit of the county?
Yes, and all the towns done effectively by October 15th.
For the year ended June 30th.
For the year ended June 30th.
So we've got 2 competing things. We
Right.
could go to them and ask them to approve all this contingent on us getting that last permit. And if we do that, we can go to the next meeting and do it. And they have been reluctant to give you a contingent approval. I don't know why. There's no risk to them. We talked about what is your risk. If you tell us what the risk is, we'll help you mitigate the risk. We can't do that. So we've got a call scheduled for later in the week to work through that. We're hopeful they'll just say, yeah, you're right, move on. The problem is if they say no, then we have to move our meeting until November.
Our meeting.
Our approval with the
LGC.
from the October to the.
I apologize, guys. I'm
That's
trying
okay.
to track all the moving
Yeah,
parts here.
from
I'm just
the
having trouble.
October meeting to the November meeting. By then, we should have our permit. So we've now solved the permitting issue. But to be on the November agenda of the LGC for anything, you have to have your audits in by October the 15th.
Uh-huh.
It's impossible for us and all of the towns to have audits done between now and October the 15th. And so
When do we typically get the year-end audit?
before December the 1st.
December 1st.
So 3.5 months to October 15th is impossible, but an additional 6 weeks to December 1st, they do get them done.
Correct.
Okay.
So there's a time frame we can't meet there.
Right.
So it's
Right.
imperative to us to get the waiver, if you will, and the approval subject to permitting, because the other condition is not possible to meet.
So we could, theoretically, we could go back to square one, start with weeks, start with the bank, start with everything.
So what then happens is,
Good
if
God.
everything goes wrong that can go wrong, and we're into November and they haven't held rates and hadn't held their contract, we're likely to have to rebid and start this process again, go back to the banks with RFQs, do all that again.
And this is all being tied to a CAMA permit in Southern Shores,
Well,
or,
it's-
sorry,
No,
Kitty Hawk.
Kitty Hawk.
Kitty Hawk.
Kitty
Did
Hawk.
Did Ken make the application for the Kitty Hawk permit at the same time he did with the Southern Shores?
Yeah.
They're all the same.
Everything is, went in at the same time, all the permits are back with that, and the Corps sitting there waiting for that last permit so they can do their thing, so there's some time lag there too. Again, what we can't understand is we can't understand what's imperative about having that permit in place to approve the financial package. We can't move forward with the contract, borrow the money, do any of the things we got to do.
Until you get the permit.
Until we get the permit, and so there's no risk to the local government that we're making a bad financial, they're here to protect the public from us making bad financial decisions. The financial side of it is easy. They got that. There's no issue with that. This is the only issue. And there's no risk to them with that because that risk takes care of itself because nothing can happen without that permit.
And there's someone in CAMA who can make a decision, take our request, file it. I'm trying to,
Well,
do you guys speak
If
to
we get
CAMA
the
directly?
CAMA
or-
permit tomorrow,
We're good.
well, no, because now we have all of the town's permits, and now the Corps has to act. And so we're still waiting on the Corps to issue their permit, and we can't tell you whether they're going to be done by the LGC meeting in 2 weeks or not. So we still have that issue confronting us, and so we're trying to work that out before we walk into that meeting with or without the permit.
Can we get any assistance from Murphy's office or whatever?
Well, this
from
is the
court?
state, so,
No, you said you got to wait on the Corps permit.
no, I don't know.
Listen, this isn't their first go-round, for God's sake.
What I
You
would
know-
I'll tell you this, let us have our conversation with the LGC. I think we're either going to talk
Wednesday.
tomorrow late or on Wednesday. In the past, we've been able to work these things out. We've had similar kind of policy versus practical issues with projects we've done before. When we sat down, Dave and I and our financial advisors and had some conversations with them and some of the hires up, we've been able to work through these problems and resolve them. I feel confident that we can do this now because it's rational and it makes sense. There's no reason for it. And so if we get the right decision makers in the room, I think we can solve it. But Dave's telling you all this as an abundance of caution and full disclosure, and hopefully by Wednesday we'll have it all worked out and it will be a non-issue. If it is not, then we'll start looking at what are our alternatives.
Yeah, because it will cost real money if this has to go back and start at square one again.
Well,
I-
and
I'm-
we're going to have some timing issues and all kinds
Oh,
of stuff.
yeah, everything
That's
is.
critical, the timing.
And now everybody's bid,
Yes, sir.
so we would lose the benefit of that bid.
Yeah, nobody wants that.
What
Yeah.
happens with the, should the interest rate go up? I mean, obviously, it's a question of how much, but what does that do to the overall plan? What does that do to the funding?
If you're talking about 1/4% or something, we can handle all that. We don't want to because it's a lot of money, but we could.
What's the
It
borrowing
would,
amount?
I would assume it would affect how much the towns would want to add additional.
Well, it would take that $5 million surplus we have and spend some of it to solve the problem.
Right.
How much is our debt issuance, Dave?
Sorry,
14 million? What was the amount of the bonds that we're issuing?
8.7.
How much?
8.7.
So if you amortize it over 5 years in half, that means on average, we're paying a little over $4 million principal with interest on it. You do the math, Wally. 1% on 4 million is 40,000?
It's high 30s, yeah.
Okay,
We were
so if
able to-
interest rates went up 1% from 0.9 to 1.9, it would add 40,000 a year to our expense
But the
for 5
likely
years.
risk is more like a quarter.
And exactly.
Right, so it's
And
not
I'll-
big money.
I'll confess that your model used 4%, so we're at 0.89. I agree with Bobby. I don't think we'd be
The
looking
interest rate
at
risk
more
is-
than 1.25.
Our bigger issue is if we can't get weeks to hold the contract, because
That's
we've got a
right.
big savings there, and if they rebid, and now everybody knows what everybody else bid, we're likely to lose that, and that's our risk.
Absolutely.
And that's millions of dollars.
critical.
That's not $10,000.
Well,
Then that-
on the
then that
existing
starts-
scenario, we've saved over $1 million anyway in interest.
Yeah, the interest isn't our risk. It's the loss of the contract that's our
Right.
risk.
But that's also going to impact how much sand they put on the beaches too, isn't it?
Unlikely. Again, a $10,000 interest rate risk isn't going to change how much sand anybody puts on the beach.
I'm
If-
talking about the rebidding.
Oh,
of
for
it.
sure.
Yeah,
Well, depending on what the
Yeah.
bids come in at,
Exactly.
because we've got money budgeted for a higher number, so we've got some room to move if the bids went up, but the savings is what's allowing Duck and Kitty Hawk to do some things that they wanted to do that they couldn't afford to
Yeah, I
do.
mean, it's completely irrational if this thing goes down the drain because of a CAMA permit in Southern Shore, or,
Right.
I keep saying
But-
that,
and-
in Kitty
and-
Hawk, excuse me,
and-
Kitty Hawk.
And it's not really CAMA's irrationality, it's the LGC irrationality that causes.
Well,
the
somebody's
problem.
irrational.
Yeah, the LGC's, there's no reason for their requirement to say you gotta have your permits, because what if we don't have our permits? What is the risk to the local
None,
government?
we can't go forward with the
Zero, right.
financing, and we can't spend the money, so there's no financial risk.
Exactly.
Right.
And even if we closed the loan and couldn't do the project because we didn't get the permit, the money's sitting there in the account, we're not allowed to spend it, we
Just
just
give
give
it
it back. Yeah,
Right.
so,
Put me on the LGC temporary assignment, we'll get it done.
anyway, that's where we are. That's a layman's view. I don't know if I said it just right, Dave, but that's
No,
close.
you've done a great job.
Yeah, that's very helpful, both guys,
All
thank
right,
you,
so
very helpful.
we have before us then a request to do 4 things, and that's authorize myself to execute the letter of intent, adopt a capital project ordinance, adopt a approving resolution, and then specify that the approval of the interlocal agreement is to form. This is what's before us.
On the interlocal agreement, if you would all, rather than approve it as to form, approve the local government, the interlocal agreement, and give me the authority to modify changes consistent with the project so that we do have formal approval of the document, not just as to form.
Right, I think that's a good idea, Bobby.
Okay. You got that revision then?
So moved.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor then
Second over
to
here.
approve this by Vice Chairman Overman. It's been seconded by Commissioner Couch. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous. We waiting patiently for that conversation tomorrow.
Wednesday.
When, it's like, it's either gonna be at 4:30 tomorrow or on Wednesday, and they're working that out now.
Where does the local government commission report to within the state government?
The treasurer.
The treasurer?
Well, it's a separate commission that's the state treasurer, secretary of state. There's another council government appointee, and I believe 2, like a governor appointee and a general assembly
So,
appointee.
do you know what the local government commission is? Are you familiar with it?
I've only heard the term as the oversight
So,
board for local
back in
council.
the 30s or 40s, the multiple local governments in North Carolina went broke.
Yes, I remember that.
And the local government commission was formed to be
Right.
an oversight committee
Right.
to look
Got that.
over the shoulders and make sure that local governments are following the financial policies that are sound in those kinds of things.
Which makes great sense, by
Which
the way.
makes, and so any debt service that you have to do is one of the things that they look at. Before you enter into debt, you have to go and get their approval. They want to know that you've got a legitimate plan, that you
Makes
can
sense.
afford it, that it makes sense, that your rates are right, that you've got cash flow to cover it, all those kinds of things that you would look at in any business before you allowed somebody to do it. They look over it so that political people don't make decisions that are poor decisions that cause problems for the local governments. And so that's what they do. And so what we have to do when we do debt, by the way, they do other functions too. They review your audits each year to make sure you're doing the things during the year that meet the statutes and all those kinds of things. And then when local governments run afoul of the rules, they come in and send you a letter and tell you to correct it. And then when you don't correct it, they have the authority to go in and run your government. They can take over and run counties and towns, and they have done that. There's
Right.
a list of them that
Right.
they're doing right now.
One's not too recent, yeah.
Yeah. And so they form an important function, and they're not bad, there's nothing negative about them, but they have accountants doing the work, and they have a set of rules, and there's a checklist, and if something doesn't exactly fit in the box, then they don't understand it and they say no, and you have to sit down with them and explain what you're doing, how you're doing it, why it matters, what their role is, how is this putting you at risk, let's mitigate the risks if there are risks, and let's talk it through. And usually when you do that, they get it, and we can work through it. And there's nothing in this that's a bad financial move. There's nothing in this that creates red flags for them or should create. It's just something in their box they can't check, and we've just got to talk about it. At least that's my perception. You know, if they're coming in and they're just not going to listen to any reason and not talk about it at all, then we're going to have a problem. But
Okay,
I would not expect that.
okay, good.
I'm sorry, the other one's the state auditor.
Right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
All right, that brings us to the consent agenda, Mr. Chairman. On the consent agenda, you have the approval of the minutes. You have the North Carolina Governor's Highway Safety Program local government resolution. You have a final budget amendment for the Home Health and Hospice Certificate of Need sale. You have an authorization to present the service weapon to a retiring deputy sheriff, the tax collector's report, and the 3-year renewal of the RAVE Mobile Safety Agreement.
Motion to approve.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor by Commissioner House to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there a second? Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Ross? Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
And the next are your board appointments. First is the Jury Commission Board. Lou Ellen Quinn has tendered her resignation. The Dare County Jury Commissioner Chair has recommended Elizabeth Ann Creef Meekins to serve the remainder of her term.
Move to appoint Elizabeth Ann Creef Meekins to serve the remaining term of Lou Ellen Quinn.
There's a motion on the floor by Commissioner, Vice Chairman Overman. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Bateman and House. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Next is your Health and Human Services Board. The terms of Dr. Christian Legay, David Ryan, and Kay White expire this month. The Health and Human Services Board recommends Dr. Ashley Clower, Doug Tillett, and Alan Moran fill their vacancies, and Erwin Bateman be reappointed.
Pleasure of the board.
Move to approve David Ryan, those are expirations, sorry. Move to approve Dr. Ashley Clower, Doug Tillett, and Alan Moran, and that Erwin Bateman be reappointed.
All right. Motion on the floor by Vice Chairman, seconded by Commissioner Ross. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
And then finally, you have the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. The terms of Shannon Glasser and Jamie Coach expire next month, and they wish to be reappointed.
Move to reappoint.
The motion on the floor by Commissioner House to reappoint. Second by Commissioner Bateman. Was that you, Commissioner Bateman?
Yep.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
That'd be your agenda, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, County Manager. That brings us to item 8, which is, item 9, Commissioner's business. Commissioner Ross, would you mind kicking it off this evening?
Yes, sir. I don't really have much other than something you mentioned prior to us commencing the meeting while we were back in our chamber about the weekend and certain college football games going on. Now, I make this comment only because I'm kind of sitting here as a citizen observing and watching. There was a game early in the day between Ohio State and
Tulsa.
Was it Tulsa?
Tulsa.
Yeah.
Tulsa.
And roughly 105,000 people fit into Ohio Stadium. And there was a Penn State game, a whiteout game, and close to 110,000 people fit in that stadium.
Two largest stadiums in the country.
Yeah, and Michigan's right there with them. Yeah. Those three are huge. But I also noticed on Sunday, similar stadium capacities, not as large, but quite loud, quite populated with fans in NFL football games. I contrast that with the very strict mask mandates in a lot of communities. And I'm just telling you, as just a citizen, I scratch my head. How do 110,000 people sit shoulder to shoulder for 4 hours, and yet we have I go in and get my mail each day, and I walk 11 steps, I counted them, from the door to my box. I open it, have a mask on, and I walk out with a mask on. I'm in the room 35 seconds. But it just, I don't know, guys. I guess I'm looking at it saying, I don't understand some of this. I just don't. And, I don't have an answer. I'm just puzzled by some of these astonishing dichotomies in the public eye and in our daily lives. That's all I have, sir. I just wanted to share that.
No problem. Thank you, Commissioner Ross. Point well taken. Commissioner House?
First off, I want to ask everyone to keep Representative Keith Kidwell and his wife in your prayers. His wife is in the hospital and is very ill. Representative Kidwell works with us on a lot of the coastal issues, especially with our commercial fishing. And my prayers are with you, Keith.
Is Keith at home, do you know, Steve? Did he get
Keith
home?
is at home.
He's at home, okay.
This weekend coming up is the Outer Banks Jeep Invasion, so you will see a lot of Jeeps all over the Outer Banks. It coincides with the Dare County Annual Toy Run, and all the proceeds from that event will go to the Toy Run. I know I'll be riding in it, as well as Mr. Chairman here will be riding in it as well. Last year, this event was successful, even with the lack of a lot of fundraising due to COVID. As of last year, we were actually to provide over 600 children with a full Christmas. And I'm not just talking about one Christmas present, I mean a full-blown Christmas. And over 250 bicycles alone were given out. Come on out, enjoy the Jeep Invasion. And all the proceeds, like I said, will be donated to the Toy Run, and look for everybody to come out. It'll be a great event. Our day in history. In 1952, scientists confirmed that DNA holds hereditary data. We hold that now as common knowledge, but it was in 1952 when that was actually discovered. And with a lot of the talk about hurricanes of late and how intense they have become, it's nothing new. In 1971, Hurricane Irene became the first hurricane known to cross from the Atlantic to the Pacific, where it was renamed Hurricane Olivia. So, the talk of hurricanes becoming more and more strengthening due to recent events, it's nothing new. It's been happening. And then on a more lighter note, I think all of our favorite part of our evening meetings, we have the pet of the week. Meet Cole.
Our pet of the week for this week is Cole. This handsome fella is smart and active. Cole is about 2 years old and is looking for an active, outdoorsy family. He rides brilliantly in a car, loves to play with toys, and run. This boy loves to run. Cole could go home with another dog of his choosing, older kids that can handle his energy, and no feline friends. To adopt Cole or foster one of our other animals, you can come visit us Tuesday through Sunday at our shelter located in Manteo. This week, join us at OBX Jeep Invasion Saturday, September 25th from 10 to 3 and meet our available dogs ready to be adopted. For more information, visit our website at www.obxspca.org or visit our OBX SPCA Facebook page.
So go down to the SPCA, visit Cole, and take him home, and hopefully you can give him a forever home. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner. I haven't been there in a while.
I have.
I was getting ready to ask
Today.
how things going.
It's closed, but I went over and met with the staff. I wasn't going for any adoptions or anything. I just
Next
went
time,
and-
pick up a dog while you're there.
Well, I've got one of each at home, and it's just me chasing them now.
Why were they closed?
Mondays, they're closed
Oh,
Mondays.
oh,
It's just
oh, okay.
automatic close.
Okay, I got you.
But I wanted to just share this. I wasn't going to, but Steve, you inspired me with that. They had one of their animal managers, associates, was caring for 3 brand newborn kittens, bottle feeding with a little eyedropper. They had been found inside of a tire.
Oh, wow.
But the tire, it wasn't an act of cruelty. We believe a feral cat gave birth in a tire. Public Works or collection picked up these tires and in depositing them saw these, I mean, these kittens are this big. And she was sitting in the room hand feeding with like a little bottle eyedropper. And I thought, okay, we're closed. This woman, her name was Lee, was caring for these animals. I mean, it was not staged. It was all genuine. So I assure you.
Wow.
Good.
Yeah,
Well, that's good.
everyone that works there and volunteers there has the animal's kindness at heart.
And the lady in the video with Cole is named Tricia. How do I know that? I met Tricia today and I know her voice. She is also the one in charge of adoptions, events, and she was absolutely fantastic. So
So they're
Hats
gonna
off.
they're gonna be out at the event site?
they are.
Okay.
Yes, they are.
Good deal. Well, I look forward to it. I won't be riding in a Jeep. I'll be on two wheels. But, thank you, Commissioner. Vice Chairman,
Mr. Chairman, I don't have anything this evening.
thank you. Commissioner Bateman?
The only thing I've got to add is to the chairman's comments, and I will, at the Tourist Bureau, they informed us that in the month of August, I'm sure Dave knows about this, they underreported on our numbers this month that you were quoting on property management by $12 million. And so there's going to go up 13.9%, I believe, on the next reporting for the next month. Isn't that correct, Dave?
I got to admit, I did not know that.
Anyway, but so it's quite a bit.
Wow.
And I said, why did they underreport? And nobody ever gave me an answer.
Nobody gave you an answer.
Yeah, but we're everybody's rolling.
happens.
It's
Just
just been a
happens.
phenomenal year.
This is what drives me crazy.
We do need to understand that the numbers that they throw out, it's, you're dealing with 2020, and in the restaurants, for instance, we were not open
I'm
March, April,
Right.
and most of May. So that's 3 months there.
Yeah.
But then the rest of the time, that we had a fairly good season. But in comparison to 2019, all the barometer is way above what the 2019 numbers were also,
Wow.
which is really good. So we're blessed. And as I told my fellow board members, this too shall pass, y'all. This is not forever.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
you're right. Well, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Count?
Yep, Mr. Chairman, thank you for bringing up Miss Linda. Reading some of the tributes to her, she really was a Dare County icon. And what I really liked about her was, not just in my experience, but I've talked to others that had this happen to them as well. She would just call you out of the blue.
Yep.
How are you doing? And I'm doing good. And sometimes you wonder what's going on. All right, what do you need? What do you need to volunteer me for? But she just wanted to know how you were doing.
Yep.
And there was rarely anybody that she didn't know. And when she was running the tax department, I mean, there was a lot of people that they would call up with vinegar in their voices and everything, but she had an ability to kind of put out some fires. It was a gift. I mean, it's a big job now, and with the staff we've got over there now, definitely rolling. But she was the right person for the job at that time. But thank you for bringing that up, and I'm sure this board will join the Dare County Sheriff's Department in congratulating Lieutenant Jack Scarborough. He is now Captain Jack Scarborough, and he's been in his new role as 911 communications director there. He took Trey. Trey retired, so we lost a good one, but got a good one. And Jack has been he's been preparing for this kind of position his entire life, even in high school. His parents, I grew up with his parents, but even in high school, even in coming out of middle school, freshman, sophomore years, he was active with the rescue groups down there, and I'm just proud as all get out of that young man.
Good deal.
Jack Scarborough, he's Captain Scarborough now.
Yeah, awesome.
That's all I've got.
Thank you, Commissioner. County Manager, you have anything else for us?
Couple things. Commissioner Couch stole some of my thunder.
Oh, sorry.
I was going to mention Linda Midget as well. You know, everybody knew her. She was one of the kindest ladies and the nicest and most thoughtful people I ever met. Hadn't been down here very long, and I was at some function that she was helping with, and she'd made some pimento cheese. And it's the best pimento cheese I've ever had. And I told her that after the meeting, and from that time on until recent years, about once or twice a year, I'd get a call, and it would be, "Hey, honey, can you come downstairs? I got something for you." And she would come by and bring me a little thing of that pimento cheese, and that went on for years. So what a kind, sweet lady who will be definitely missed in Dare County. Similarly, I was going to mention Jack Scarborough. Jack's going to be a great asset to the county. He's a really good guy, a really nice guy. He's well thought of and well liked through the community. He's got a learning curve because he's coming in new. As I was speaking before, there's not any such thing as a communications director out in the world. You don't go find one of those and hire a replacement. They're all trained in-house. He's been working with Trey for a month or more trying to get up to speed so he could hit the ground running. Trey retired on Friday. Jack was sworn in Friday afternoon. I talked to him today, and he's rolling, so he's going to be great, and we won't miss a beat, and I'm confident our communication system will continue to run as smoothly as it always has. And then the last thing, we've talked off and on to some of you individually. I'm not sure if we've talked about it at a board meeting. We may have, but we're continuing to have employment issues in terms of hiring employees in public works. We lost another employee over Friday, I guess it was, gave his notice, and we're down to having only one person left in recycling, for example, and we're focusing on getting the trash picked up, but our recycling is being left kind of unmanaged, and we're closed up and narrowed the gap because we just don't have the staff to deal with it. Shannon, Dave, and I, and some of her staff, we're going to meet later this week to start looking at, what are our options? What do we do? Is there a way to contract it out? Do we stop doing recycling altogether? I don't know what our choices are, but we don't have the staff to do it, and we're not getting many applications. I've also asked Elizabeth to do our own sort of in-house salary survey on some of the departments like that to see where we stand and see where we stack up. I mean, is it just a labor shortage, or are we out of the market because we're not graded right, or can we identify the problem? I don't know what the result of that will be, but I'll share it with you when you get it. I just want you to know that because you're liable to get calls, or some people say, why aren't we doing recycling or whatever? And the reason is we just don't have people, and we can't get people to work. And so we're doing the best we can. Again, we've prioritized the garbage pickup, and we've put all of our resources that way. Some of the other things we do, we may not do as much of over in public works simply because we got to get the garbage up. There's no way around that. And so just so you know what's going on. And I'll keep you informed as to our ideas or what progress we make or as those things change. That's all that I have, unless there's any questions.
That's keeping that in perspective, what we're having here with labor shortages of the county. The restaurant down the street, they can't get anybody to work. The companies can't get anybody to clean. We're not immune to labor shortages. And, I mean, we've been struggling. I've explained to people, and using Rodanthe as an example, they want to recycle. It's a feel-good thing. People want to do what they can to contribute to the environment. But unless you have the manpower to do those things, you can't do it. You can't throw money at a problem trying to fix it. You got to work it through and talk it through, and I think they're on the right track. I get Bobby and Shannon in there and identify what's going on and come up with a solution.
Point well taken, Commissioner Couch. And along those same lines, the county manager and I met with some YMCA folks this past week with respects to some essential workforce housing issues, and they brought to us an opportunity to, at least maybe the county participate on some of their existing sites, or a third party, and so we're having some conversation with them. But an interesting conversation that I think that we need to look at as a board, maybe in a special meeting or workshop, as one of the representatives from that group was heavily involved in J1 students. And along with some other folks that I've met with recently concerning J1 students, we need to take a look at our transportation issue here in Dare County and potentially maybe expand upon that, because it's all over social media right now that those students that would potentially come to the Outer Banks are hesitant for two reasons. Number one, transportation. Number two, housing. We've been 2 years now without them, Commissioner Bateman, and I know that's critical for your industry. We're not going to have them at all in a couple of years if we're not able to provide those two things. Because this is all over social media, and they're saying you don't want to go to the Outer Banks because there's no transportation and there's no housing.
Well,
And we have got, now that we have the potential to fund some additional transportation needs in the county, we need to strongly consider that, because this is all over the media. And I can tell you right now, based on what I've heard from several people that are heavily involved in working with J1s, they're not coming, even if they are released to come, because that's what's on social media, is you don't go because there's no transportation and there's no housing.
I think I read something a while back, Rob. It said something about now housing has to be guaranteed.
That is exactly right.
For J1 students.
That
to
is
come.
exactly
And
right.
H2B as well.
That's exactly, and that's going to be part of their requirement.
Yep.
And so we've got another tough nut to crack here, guys. But we need to talk about it
yeah,
soon.
I agree, Mr. Chairman. The transportation component has always been, I think, in the background of our discussions as another dimension of this to make it truly successful, especially if the location.
The county
of
manager and I
development.
talked extensively
Yeah.
about that, and
Yeah.
I think we got a little plan that we could present to you guys that may be feasible for us to do. So in the coming weeks, we need to do that.
Bob, there's some good comments you made, but as Bobby would tell you, we visited transportation through the Cheryl Bird era many, many years ago.
I know, I was on that.
Yeah,
I was on
I
that
know,
board.
and I agree with you 100%. In our industry, and I'm sure Danny's is doing the same thing, but we're having to supply housing for our employees. And we have to show that if we got 8 people coming, we got to show we have 8 beds. And I can pretty well tell you that I'm going to be the transportation for those 8 people.
Well,
Whether they're in Kitty Hawk, they're in Kildova Hills, or they're at Sugar Creek, to get them to work and get them back and forth.
Well,
'Cause
I think the county manager and I have had conversation. I think we've got a pretty good plan that would make sense, and we need to share that with you guys sooner rather than later.
Great.
That we're not talking third party, we're not talking grants and all this stuff. I think it would work. It's a step in the right direction, but we'll have some conversation about that.
Just one more thing along those lines. In addition to the conversations that the chairman was having and the chairman and I were having, I had a Zoom meeting one day last week with a gentleman out of Wisconsin who, all that he does is build J1 housing in tourism communities like in Branson and other places, and he's done it all over the country, and that's what he does. And he wants to come here, and he's trying hard to come here. He's reached out to us. He had actually reached out to the same folks that Bob and I had met with. He's reached out to several other entities that own land here, and that's a possibility. We talked about transportation. The transportation plan that you talked about was a very elaborate plan with bus routes and all that, and it was difficult and didn't get far. The transportation plan that we're kind of talking about now is if you can cluster those J1s in one place and you can take them to one stop, not a route, and it's just for the J1, and either take them at or near where they work or take them close to where you got bicycles or whatever that they can easily get to their workplace, then you can do a transportation plan that's relatively cheap. When you've got J1s spread out all over the whole beach, then you can't do that because you can't run a route. We found that wasn't successful, and so there's another way to look at that the chairman and others are looking at that'll work very well if we can cluster the J1 housing in multiple places.
Makes sense.
And so
Yeah.
Makes
that's
sense.
sort of the direction that this is going with
Yeah.
all of these players. If we can kind of, we've become the middleman, if you will, the chairman and I, to bring all these competing industries together. They're trying to get to the same place, and I think we've told them we got to do this collaboratively so we can leverage all of our resources to get the most housing we can, and they're all amenable to that. So, and just one last thing, I've got a conference call set up with a group out of New York, and I think the town of Nags Head may be involved in that on Thursday, that is again trying to do some housing. So there's a lot going on. It is a busy time for housing. I don't know how much of this will play out, but there's a lot of interest and a lot of talk and a lot of people besides us working on it. So that's a good thing.
And one more, when we're going to hear just some news about when we're going to hear from UNC?
We should hear from them in October, and we should have a plan in place, a plan from them for you all to act on before the first of the year. So that's going to happen in the next 60 days or so is what I've been told. I have a conference call with them every 2 weeks. I talk to them. I have one Wednesday with them. The one I had before, I close every one of them. Are we on schedule? Are we on track? My board's really pushing me hard to get something done. They're anxious. We've been waiting a long time. And she says, yes, yes, yes. And every time she asks me, can we do this? Can we do that? I say, is it going to slow this down? We got to have this on time. And she has assured me each time that she's on the schedule.
Sarah?
That's Sarah,
Yeah.
on the schedule that I just gave you. So they're aware of how anxious you all are, and I have conveyed that to them on multiple occasions.
Thank you.
Yeah, she's aware, trust me. All right, anything else?
I did omit one comment I wanted
Yes,
to
sir.
share. And I got a communication from the Board of Education. I had been pressing an outfit for the roadmap of need regarding children's educational achievements. They publish it every year, and they elected not to publish this year. But I did receive communication from one of the board members about a nonprofit, nonpartisan 501c3 organization called Education North Carolina, or EdNC. And they had surveyed achievement for proficiency being I can do it, in our school kids in reading and mathematics. And across the board, the average declined year on year over the past 12 months by almost 15%. Remember, we have a lot of surrounding counties that during the best of times had 1 out of 3 students able to demonstrate proficiency in math and English. That has now declined 15% in the last 12 months. And I'm looking at Mary Helen right now saying, please, Education North Carolina, 501c3. That's where the data is. It's not my data. It's not partisan data. And it doesn't have a political impact. It says our kids across this state have suffered tremendously from lockdowns, distance learning, lack of computers, lack of virtual learning capability, lack of broadband, and it's showing.
Commissioner, I'm
maybe-
hearing
maybe angry.
a lot of parents are holding their kids back.
Well, they have to.
Yeah.
If you can't read and you can't do math and you advance them to the next level, it is a formula for failure for the
Right.
kid. And then the subsequent ripple effects can be,
Tremendous, yeah.
yeah,
Because a lot of times then what
Yeah.
happens is the child gets frustrated with school.
exactly.
And just shuts down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know.
Yeah, it's pretty sad.
So that's the part that hasn't been reported on very much,
Right.
that I'd like to see more.
Okay, Public Information Officer, Ms. Hester, do you have anything for us this evening?
Just quickly, in light of the conversation you all were having about the essential housing and the efforts being made, we released a video recently updating folks and have prepared web pages that you can reach those easily by darenc.com/housing. And that's where we're keeping folks up to speed. We've prepared frequently asked questions. We'll continue updating those, but we do have a repository, so to speak, of where people can go. It doesn't necessarily track the town initiatives as much as the county, the county's
Right.
initiatives, but we do have that. And then we'll be working with the towns pretty soon here to start back with our More Beach to Love campaign.
Great.
With the town projects moving forward, and then the Avon and Buxton getting bid over the next few months, we'll
That
get
starts in
those-
October, yeah.
get those cranking again. So I just wanted to mention those
Yeah.
sites.
Thank you, Dorothy. Finance Director, Mr. Clausen, do you have anything else for us?
Sir, nothing else.
All right, thank you so much. All right, that brings us to a motion to adjourn until October 4th.
So moved.
Motion on the floor by Commissioner House. It's been seconded by
Me.
Commissioner Bateman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.